Hello everyone and welcome to a new video today with Robocop Rogue City, a game which I'm not playing as I'm talking to you because it is quite prone to crashing. The demo version came out a few days ago. It's built on the latest version of the Unreal Engine. There's shader compilation issues which cause it to crash 6 out of 10 times when it has to load a new scene or a cinematic. It also runs like absolute horse crap, but they still have like 3 weeks before launch, so maybe they can fix something about it, hopefully. The game is developed by the same people who made Terminator Resistance, which I didn't play, so I don't know what it's like. It's a studio called Teon from Poland, so expect Eurojank to the max. Also, going to the settings menu, expect to not have a clear picture if you're upscaling the game or not. I kind of hate the way that some modern game engines work, where they just have this on by default. TAA, TSR, or the various upscaling technologies that work more or less. I kind of miss the old days of just rendering the frame without the temporal crap getting in the way, because nothing temporal ever looks good. Nothing. TAA is the worst type of anti-aliasing ever made. It's worse than FXAA. At least FXAA could disable. But anywho, let's get right into it. The game starts off with, or what every Robocop movie starts off with, a newsreel that's humorous, sad, and in this case it turns into a hostage situation. The game takes place after Robocop 2, so after OCP decided to basically stuff a bunch of new priorities into his memory, which ended up driving him a bit insane until he electrocuted himself to get rid of all of them. But since then they seem to have at least put back the first 3, possibly the 4th one as well. In terms of fidelity to the movies, it looks really good. Everything just about resembles exactly what I remember from the movies. The characters, the police station, the places, it all is genuinely well made. Still runs like crap, but hey, maybe they'll fix it. Or maybe I can get a 4090 Ti when that thing comes out and I feel that I have one extra kidney lying around. Anyway, you may be wondering, what kind of game is this? Well, it's a bit of a Deus Ex-alite. It's a shooter, yeah, absolutely it's a shooter, but it's also an RPG because everything has to be an RPG these days. Everything needs to have a progression system tied to it, and, well, there is an explanation for why you have a progression system in this game. After the first mission, Robocop glitches a bit, and they install a chip on his head that tracks progress, or performance, if you will, and he gets rated on that performance. Now, that doesn't explain why you have experience points in the first level before they put the chip in, but you know, that's an oversight that sometimes happens in games. And depending on how well you do, you can spend those skill points you acquire in various trees. Some of them are not about blowing people's heads off, though we'll get to that. There's psychological stuff, there's scanning, there's engineering, because God knows Robocop needs engineering to tear open a safe. It's a lot of it seems a bit contrived, to be honest. But hey, I mean, they had to stuff in some progression in there, or otherwise people would get bored of blowing people's heads off as a walking tank, because that is what you are. You are a walking bipedal tank that is built for murder. Yes, you're a cop, but you're a cop built by a corporation that bought out a city in order to demolish it and build something else in its place that it can then sell for profit. Robocop wasn't really built to serve the public trust. It was more built to, you know, show the people that, well, we do a corporation, we're really trying to cut down on that crime thing that we are also responsible for. So we built a walking tank that's going to kill everybody. Now, unfortunately, the guy they selected, well, they killed in order to turn into Robocop, was a bit more human than they counted on, so he's not really as murdery as he could be. That's the essence of the Robocop movies. Humanity versus capitalism. And for the most part, humanity loses. And the game seems to get that at some points. I mean, this is just a demo. It's a big demo, but it doesn't really show you the full scope of the game. But there are bits and pieces where, yeah, it's clear that devs understood what this is about. That Robocop, although he is technically built to serve the public trust and he's programmed to do that, and that's what Alex Murphy would do, he only has tools that kill people and nothing else. The part of him that actually tries to improve society comes from Alex Murphy, from him talking to people, from him basically being a social worker. That is essentially what the psychology skill path is for. Anyway, getting to the actual game, I have to say that I'm really surprised by the details they put into this game. Now, this may look like a AAA game, but it feels a bit more like a Eurojank game. Like, what if the people that made, I don't know, Precursors or Xenon 2, White Gold, or any of those other Eurojank games, or Slavklunk games actually, because it's made in Poland, what if they got their hands on Robocop and a bit more money? That's what it feels like in some places, because it's trying to be Deus Ex, and it almost gets to that level in some portion, but it's not there yet. But there are details, like there's a bit like right at the start where a cat basically tells you to pick up that can. You cannot pick up that can because you cannot use it to murder people, but it's a fine detail right there. And the first scene, when you arrive at the incident site, it's so filled with life, it's so clustered with characters, it's beautiful. It makes you think that this is gonna be like a really, really dense game with lots of characters and lots of life, until you realize that none of them are moving. That's something you'll notice quite quickly in the first scene, in the police station, and in the eventual open world hub area that you get to next. Again, the demo is gigantic, there's 50 gigs in it, it's big. You'll notice that basically nobody is moving around. That's the kind of limitation that you would see in really early games where you couldn't trust NPCs to pathfind or even go on a predetermined line. You will not see people moving around all that often. And it's noticeable, I mean it's weirdly noticeable. Deus Ex wasn't that static, and Deus Ex was made 23 years ago. I'm not sure if some of the other areas will change this. Maybe you'll get more life in the levels later on, but I don't think so. I think this is what they could achieve with the time and resources that they had at their disposal. Something that looks filled with life, but if you push it a bit, it's gonna fall down and break into pieces. I mean, they really try to give this shooter a sense that it's more than that. It's a bit more Deus Ex than it actually is. And kudos to them for trying. Don't think they made it, at least not in the demo version. There's just so little interaction with people. You get close to them, they'll sometimes have a quip to say, and then nothing. You can't even get them to repeat what they just said. It feels so cold and static, and in a sense, yeah, that would fit the theme of the franchise, especially coming from the point of view of Robocop, who is cold and dead, and most of the world feels like that towards him, since he's an abomination. Anyway, there is one character that will constantly move around, and that is Lois. She'll be your partner in the game, she'll tag around, and is basically indestructible. You don't have to worry about her in firefights, she can hold her own. Also like the detail that she follows you into the burning building, and the first thing she does when she shows up in the cinematic is drop a fire extinguisher, because that's how she got into the building. Or the way she pops a bubble with the chewing gum. Again, that's the kind of detail you don't see in AAA games, where characters would just show up and say, oh yeah, I used the fire extinguisher that I found from that guy over there, and then do that, and then I did it, and then I fire extinguish all the fire. No, it just shows you. It takes half a second, you barely notice it, you hear a clang, and if you weren't paying attention, you wouldn't have seen the fire extinguisher or the chewing gum. It's effective storytelling, visual storytelling, it's good. So these people know what they're doing. And then we come to why you're here. Blowing heads off. The combat in the game is, well, you're walking bipedal tank that murders people. There's little the enemy can do against you. Well, some of them have higher caliber weapons, all of them have grenades, grenades that you can shoot out of their hands if you're quick enough or you have the slow time ability leveled up, and basically kill them with your own weapons. You can't do stuff like shoot guns out of hands, but you can do stuff like ricochet bullets off certain areas of the walls to kill even multiple enemies from behind. There's a dismemberment system in the game. You can blow off hands, legs, heads. I wouldn't say it's the best dismemberment system I've seen. Games that are at this point 20 years old have done it kind of at the same level. It's not Left 4 Dead 2's level of dismemberment either. I mean, these are still people, they're not zombies, unless you ask OCP. But it's fine. It really sells the concept that this is ultra-violence, Paul Verhoeven style comedy. You can also throw people out of windows. There's also destructible environment in the pillars of the TV station. It's only in certain areas when the music starts to swell and the action intensifies that you can just tear off the plaster from the walls. You can even throw monitors at people, or you can just grab people and slam them against other people or against the roof and have them die from the impact because you broke their spine in every place imaginable. As a shooter, it's fun. I wouldn't call it deep, but it's effective. It is quite effective. You also can carry other weapons outside of your gun, which I believe your gun can be upgraded later on. It's not in the demo. Well, at the end of the demo you do get some upgrades for your gun, but you can't use them until probably, the full game. This does look like the kind of game that will have you hunting for items around. Thankfully it doesn't have crafting. Oh, I'm so thankful there is no crafting in it. But you do have evidence to find, and depending on how much evidence you find, you will get bonus experience. One thing that I'm not really crazy about is the way that Robocop's vision works. By default, it's just standard vision, which we've established in movies that Robocop doesn't have. He always has the scan lines, he's always scanning. Here, in order to scan, you have to right click, which also zooms in. And it is a bit annoying that you can't unbind zooming in from scanning. That just makes investigating areas kind of annoying, to be honest. Robocop's vision seems to have been nerfed a bit actually in the game compared to the movies. He only has night vision, he doesn't have thermal vision, which he did have. At least he had it in the TV series. His aiming was also nerfed because, well, it's a shooter, you can't really have... Oh wait, yes you do. You can have a shooter where the character auto-aims at several characters on screen and then shoots them all. That's been a staple of most shooter games for the last 15 years. You can't get that. You can't get that even as a skill upgrade. Maybe you can get it as an upgrade for the gun at some point. But it is kind of weird that you don't have that, since Robocop's whole shtick was that he's not looking where he's shooting. Whereas this Robocop, if he has a rifle instead of his gun, uses the iron sights to aim. This does make for a more involved shooter on your part, but it makes for a less Robocop-y experience. Though again, you can throw people out of the window of a high-rise building and have them fall to their death screaming, which is always entertaining. The game also, remember the breaching mechanic that they added in Modern Warfare, that every game then suddenly had? Yeah, it's back. Honestly, most of this game feels like it should have been released 15 years ago, maybe before Deus Ex Human Revolution. It just has that feel that it's a few steps behind everything. Well, graphically it looks great, it runs terribly as well, but it just feels like it's lagging in terms of design a bit. Which is weird because oftentimes games like the ones I mentioned at the beginning, they try to do really kooky, in-depth advanced stuff. This feels more like it feels more like it's Secret Service, the game made by Fun Labs, compared to No One Lives Forever. You know, it feels like it's trying to compete with Counter-Strike, Condition Zero, instead of Deus Ex. You know what I mean? I mean, so far it's not been bad. I was surprised to see just how much they let you explore the first hub, or the police station. And I enjoy the details, like when Robocop goes to climb a ladder, you hear his legs changing formation. Like they become pistons to let him climb. He also takes no fall damage because, again, pistons, his legs are giant springs. He also can't jump, which makes sense because he weighs a ton. Oh yeah, you also have some special abilities. Apart from the slowing down time bit, you can also deploy a shield that temporarily reduces the damage that you take. You also have a shock wave punch that can electrocute and kill people instantly. I thought to myself, oh, okay, this is like an electric style taser that I can use against people and then arrest them. No, you kill them instantly, their heads blow off. And you have a dash feature, which thankfully isn't a dodge roll, that lets you get up close and personal and punch people in the face. And as standard, you can also grab them from what feels like 4 times the distance of the length of Robocop's arm. Maybe he turned into Inspector Gadget and has go extend the arm or something. Anywho, go try the demo. If it works for you, if it doesn't crash. If you're into shooters, yeah, this will be up your alley. If you're into games like Deus Ex, well, this is trying to be that. I can't really say at this point that it's succeeding. It does give you dialogue choices, which in some cases do have different outcomes, and others, no, they have the same outcome, which is par for the course for most dialogues in RPGs today, but not in the Deus Ex era. And you also get to give people parking tickets. I had no clue Robocop included a built-in printer. I guess he does. Well, that's about it for this video. The game is going to be out on the 2nd of November. Hopefully by then it will not run like absolute crap. Oh, and trust me, I tried to run it on the lowest possible resolutions with the lowest possible details. It still wasn't that great, but at least it's pretty. And the sound is nice. Well, the music is nice because it's, it's a Robocop theme. There's also some original music, but it's mostly the Robocop theme. The sound effects are okay. The audio mixing, though, tends to be a bit weird at points, especially with the voices. And the voices, they're variable in quality. Some of them sound good, some of them have the proper intonations, they sound like they should. Other ones sound a bit like the original English dub of The Witcher, which if you remember you'd know that they redid that from scratch at one point, so it wouldn't sound like the first English dub of The Witcher anymore. Well, that'll be it. See you one day soon with some different kind of show. Goodbye.